Humans, a species whose actions defy every principle of logic the galaxy has come to trust. Captain Vraal of the Thrixian Accord sat before his recording terminal, his 6 slender limbs neatly folded, his expression reflecting both bewilderment and intrigue. He began dictating his report. They are the youngest species to join the Galactic Federation, and already they have disrupted centuries of established norms, he stated, his voice tinged with exasperation. To call them reckless would be an understatement. To call them brilliant an inevitability. The captain leaned back, recalling the first reports his people had received about the humans. Long before formal contact, humanity had been venturing into territories no sane species would approach, regions teeming with cosmic radiation, black holes, and hostile environments. Each time, the reports followed a familiar pattern. Humans survived. No, they thrived. Consider their approach to exploration, Vraal continued. Where we calculate and strategize for decades, they launch themselves headfirst into the unknown, with little more than optimism and questionable technology. Yet somehow they succeed. The Nebula incident is a prime example. He paused, replaying the memory of the event. A human vessel had ventured into the Thrixian Nebula, a death trap of gravitational anomalies. Every logical model predicted their demise. Instead, they emerged weeks later, grinning through their holographic transmissions, holding crystalline samples that powered an entire colony for decades. When questioned about their decision, the human captain simply laughed and said, "We had a hunch it'd work." Vraal shook his head, still baffled. No sane species would call this methodology. And yet, he sifted through the Federation archives, pulling up countless similar examples. Humans taming volatile planets with untested terraforming techniques. Humans salvaging derelict warships and turning them into thriving trade vessels. Humans using humor and song during times of despair, baffling their allies and unnerving their enemies. The Thrixian paused his recording, turning his many eyes toward the hologram of Earth projected above his desk. It was a small, unassuming world, orbiting an average star. Nothing about it indicated that it would give rise to such a perplexing species. Their biology is equally perplexing, he resumed. Thin-skinned, fragile bones, susceptible to countless diseases, and yet relentless. They can survive environments that would crush most life forms in the Federation. How? Sheer determination, it seems. They refuse to give in, even when every variable points to certain death. They adapt, innovate, and endure. He closed the file for the moment, his mandibles clicking thoughtfully. Despite their insanity, there was something captivating about humans. They weren't driven solely by survival or logic, but by a deep, unexplainable drive to push beyond their limits. And that, he murmured to himself, may be what sets them apart from the rest of us. Vraal's observations of humanity began to deepen as he spent more time aboard their vessel. He noted the striking contrast between the humans and his own species. Where Thrixians calculated every move and followed protocol, humans thrived on improvisation, emotion, and an innate need to connect with one another. One evening, Vraal sat in the mess hall, watching as humans gathered to share stories. To them, survival wasn't simply a matter of strategy or logic, it was about bonds. They laughed, argued, and celebrated every small victory, no matter how insignificant. Vraal couldn't help but notice how the humans grew closer in these moments. "Tell us about the time you survived the meteor shower on Janus 6, one crew member urged. Another quickly chimed in, "Or the time you navigated through that black hole just to pick up cargo." The human who had been asked to recount their tale paused for a moment, then shrugged. "It wasn't so bad. Just a lot of improvisation and, a little luck." The laughter that followed was loud and genuine. They weren't just recounting past dangers. They were celebrating their ability to adapt, to defy death, and to find humor in the most absurd situations. Vraal couldn't help but feel the weight of their conviction. Humans didn't simply survive their challenges. They reveled in them. When Vraal asked one of them about the source of this relentless drive, the answer came with the ease of a truism. "We don't think about it too much. It's just in our nature to push past the limits. We're not trying to conquer the galaxy. We're trying to live. To experience everything, even the chaos. This revelation took Vraal by surprise. Thrixians viewed life as a series of calculated movements, where purpose and survival were paramount. There was little room for spontaneity, for reckless ambition, and certainly no space for emotional bonds to outweigh logic. Yet here, among the humans, these very traits were celebrated. The next day, during a routine mission, Vraal observed a human crew member who had been injured in a minor accident. Despite the pain, they insisted on continuing the mission, declaring that they were fine and could deal with it later. Vraal's first instinct was to order rest, but the human's refusal puzzled him. "They don't want to let the rest of us down," another human explained. "We stick together. It's how we survive." Vraal's analysis could only describe this as an irrational decision. Why risk injury and jeopardize the mission when it could be avoided? Yet as the day unfolded, Vraal noticed that the crew was stronger for it. There was a deeper connection between the members, one built on the foundation of shared experiences and sacrifice. It became increasingly clear to Vraal that humans didn't just view the world in terms of survival. They viewed it as a series of opportunities to connect with others, to create meaning in a universe that often seemed indifferent. The chaos of their existence wasn't something to be feared. It was the very thing that forged them into something more than a mere species. Despite all their contradictions, despite the insanity that seemed to govern their every decision, Vraal began to see what others might miss. Humans didn't just survive. They thrived because they embraced their unpredictability. They weren't defined by their limitations, but by their refusal to let anything hold them back.